Well, around his third birthday, he got a virus and he got really sick, just kind of a cold virus. And he was really sick with the virus for about a week, but then he just sort of never got better. He just stopped eating for his favorite foods he didn't want to eat anymore. The amount that he was eating was a lot smaller. We had just potty trained him maybe like a month before, and he had never wet the bed. Even from the day that we potty trained him, he never wet the bed. And suddenly he was wetting the bed 4, 5, 6 times a night, and drinking a ton. And we just were thinking, oh, well, he's just drinking so much. That's why he's wetting the bed. And then, so losing weight rapidly, and his skin kind of took on like a grayish, bluish tone. And we took him into the doctor. We were thinking that it was kind of the virus still lingering. And when we described his symptoms, we never actually got to see our doctor because she was so busy. We kept seeing nurses' assistants. And he kept saying, oh, it probably is just the virus. Just watch him. And he's a really picky eater. So I was thinking he was losing weight because he was such a picky eater and he didn't want to eat good foods. But it was probably like a month, and we'd been taking him to the doctor almost every week because he just wasn't getting better, and I was getting really frustrated. And finally, one night he started throwing up, which now I know is a symptom of, I'm going to say the acronym wrong. I think it's DKA, but ketoacidosis, diabetic ketoacidosis. Yeah, DKA, which I didn't know that. He was just throwing up. And I decided, like, that's it. I'm going to get some answers. And so I left my baby with my sister, and I took my mom, and we took Henry to the doctor, and I just listed all the symptoms he'd had for a month. And we finally saw our doctor. I insisted that we actually see the doctor, and she said, why hasn't anybody checked his blood yet? And she prepared me, and she said, if this blood check says what I think it's going to, we're going to send you to the hospital across the street to Utah Valley, and I think your son has type 1 diabetes. So we checked his blood, and his glucose reading was over 300. And in children his age, they shoot, like, our target is between 100 and 200. And so it was really emotional. I mean, because I actually had a friend growing up who had type 1 diabetes, and I remember him giving himself shots at school and things like that, and just how I knew that, like, that was going to be a huge life change for my son. And I called my husband at work, and we took Henry over to the hospital, and we were there 48 hours. And it was really hard. I mean, it's really difficult to hold your toddler down while a nurse puts an IV in him while he's, crying and asking you to make it stop, and you can't. And that was hard. But within 24 hours of him being on insulin, he started asking to eat again. And just 24 hours. And within a week, he gained 5 pounds back, and then he just, like, from then on, it was like every day he just was more and more like my little boy that my child that I'd known for forever, not this little zombie from the last 5 weeks. And, it was a tough adjustment. Like, I remember in the hospital, we practiced giving ourselves injections just of, like, saline solution just to practice it. And the first time I gave myself a shot, I was bawling because I just couldn't imagine doing that to my kid 7, 8, 9 times a day, And of course my husband was all like, this is fine, this is gonna be great, no problems, we're just gonna do it. And I just was a mess. But it was nice because the diabetes educator at the hospital told us that we were one of the most prepared parents that he had seen, because we just decided, like, we talked about it as soon as we find out, like, this is our life now. And we're not going to be, even though I cried a lot, we're not going to be scared of it. We're not going to not do it because it's uncomfortable. And so we left the hospital. All the nurses were like, it's so nice to see parents that you know are going to actually do what you're supposed to do. But I mean, I can understand as a parent, like, who wants to poke their child's finger and check their blood and give them shots and make them cry? And, I understand that, but I think just facing it head on really helped us. And it helped my son too, because we just said, Henry, you have diabetes. This is your life now, and it's going to be okay. And he's adjusted really, really well. I mean, he holds his finger out for the pokes, and there's a baseline diabetes that we have to give him a shot in his bum every morning, and that's the hardest. At least once a week, he tries to get out of that. The other shots he's okay with, but he does not like that. So, and that's hard too, And he'll have to do it when he's an adult. He'll have to do it himself, and that's kind of a sad thought, thinking about his future. But it is amazing, just the transformation. He's just this happy little boy. Whereas another one of his symptoms actually was he just started having meltdowns over the silliest little things. And he's always been a very happy kid. He didn't really go through a terrible twos. He never threw fits, which I know we're lucky. But he all of a sudden just like everything was just crying and so upset. And now I know when he starts doing that, I check his blood, and 9 times out of 10, his blood sugar is off. And that's why he's throwing a fit or having a meltdown, because he just doesn't feel good. And usually it's because his blood sugar is really high that he's throwing a fit. So it's just really interesting. As a parent, you learn what your child, why they're actually throwing a fit. They're not doing it because he's being a brat. He's doing it because he just doesn't feel good at all. I guess another symptom that I hadn't thought about also was that he went from being this kid that wanted to run around and play, that all he wanted to do was sit all day. He just wanted to sit and watch movies, and he'd never wanted to do that before. But by having really low or really high blood sugar, it just makes you exhausted. And so he'd wake up in the morning and say, "What are we going to do today, Mommy?" And I'd say, "I think we're going to play." And he'd say, "I just want to watch a movie." And now he's running around and playing outside, and just like he should be, just like any normal 3-year-old should be.